Sorry, I've been offline for a few weeks. I've been dealing with some horizontal life issues. Totally has a real nice distinction between the horizontal, which is ego-based problems, and the vertical, which are soul issues and soul existence. And most of my videos are about that. And I thought, in terms of the class, I really still very much into this. Just had to take a little bit of time off. I'm thinking I'll either do something, maybe 3 classes, just something a little shorter to get into things, maybe at the beginning of December, end of November, but stay tuned. I'll definitely give you an update on that soon. But what I wanted to do for today's video is take a look at the Bhagavad Gita. And so this is a particular take on it. And the author, I'll put all the information in the description, but the author does a great job of describing the Bhagavad Gita to Westerners who it can be very confusing. And I just want to read one little section today, sort of as a meditation, and then just describe a mystical experience I had that really fits it nicely. So this is page 119. God does not send souls on this planet for his own amusement. He sends us because we desire to come here. God is merciful. When a soul desires to explore material life, God does not argue. He sends the soul to the world, gives it a body, and lets it experience this material planet. But God does take away one thing, memory. We become forgetful of our true nature, and then we suffer. Whether or not we acknowledge it, according to the verse 8:15 of the Bhagavad Gita, this world is a temporary place full of miseries. We, the souls, then crave liberation. And there's just one way to attain freedom from all this misery: remembering our own true nature. The purpose of our lives is to understand who we are, who God is, and what our relationship with him is. Then to develop such a deep love for him that we desire to break free from the cycle of birth and death and live with and serve him forever. And some of that, you can do some translations, and you could say consciousness, instead of thinking of God as having a personality or being kind of human-like. But if you've watched this channel for a while, it might be very clear that I've been focusing a lot on experience. Don't buy into the thoughts of the thinking mind. These are stories that the left brain confabulates to make sense of the world around it. And then you say, well, the thing you just read seems like a giant leap of faith. And that's where I want to bring in a mystical experience that I had. So I was exploring EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And this is a really interesting technique where you move the eyes left, right, left, right, left, right. And you can do a wand, or you can do lights that might blink, or you can just tap the left leg, right leg, and go back and forth. And what this does is every time you look right, you activate the left brain. Every time you look left, you activate the right brain. And when you look at memory, particularly episodic memory, these are episodes in our lives, these get stored in the right brain. And when something traumatic or something that's hard to accept, a memory that's difficult to integrate into your own story takes place, it might get stored in the right brain and not have any access to the left. And so by doing this technique, at least in theory, it opens up the access to the right brain. You experience this memory directly, and then you integrate it into your story. But the theory is also that, again, it opens up communication between the left and right sides of the brain, which is critical for retrieving episodic memories, which is memories for episodes in our lives, and not all of these are very pleasant. And in fact, that's what I was focusing on. I was focusing on being alone. And in the middle of this technique, all of a sudden, I'm right here in my office, indoors, and in the middle of it, I had this experience of a golden light that appeared. And it really, I could feel it. I mean, I'm indoors, there's a roof over my head, but I could actually, it was like the sun, like someone had torn off the roof. And suddenly I felt the warmth of this light. And in a voice very different from the voice in the head, was a message. And it is, because I was actually focusing on being alone. And that was something I was kind of going deeper into. And again, not like the voice in the head, but in a way of communicating that became really obvious. This light had communicated that you are never alone. You've never been alone. I've always been with you. And that was a very interesting experience. But what I want to really get at is the verse that I read there, that section from the book, was talking about how memories are lost. But they're not completely lost, because as strange as that experience may sound to you, if you've listened so far, is that during the experience, it didn't seem strange at all. It seemed absolutely normal. Like this was someone, some entity, some higher power that I was absolutely already had a relationship. It wasn't a stranger at all. And so in that sense, while that passage I read may seem to require a lot of faith, it doesn't always, particularly when you have these direct experiences, that the ego is quite trivial, and that above all, you've chosen to be here. But in a strange way, you've chosen a life that wouldn't seem to be a life that you would seem to choose. And so it not only is the memory lost, but it gets to be very challenging unless you're fortunate enough to get these pointers here and there.